Welcome to Roaming Returns, a podcast about generating a passive income through investing so that you don't have to wait till retirement to live your passions. Ever wonder why some companies keep going up in price and others struggle? It all boils down to their competitive advantage. Once a business has a hit product or service, everyone and their mom tries to copy them. But sometimes others can't duplicate those wins for various reasons, which is what they call a moat. Today, we cover 7 different kinds of moats to give you an advantage when it comes to picking stocks. Check out the deets.
What up?
Hold
What's good?
Hold on.
We back. Yo. Winter came back for some effed up reason.
It's the full moon, man. It always gets a cold spell when full moon pops
Super
through.
cold.
All you do is complain about cold.
2 weeks ago, it was like 70 and 80. It was perfect. And now it is like 10.
Are we really talking about weather right
bullshit.
now?
Okay. If you recall, last week I said we're gonna have a two-parter coming up. Today we're gonna talk about economic moats, and the next week will be like the dividend aristocrats and challengers and kings and all those, because you need to understand what a moat is before you can actually delve into picking a dividend aristocrat, because they all are companies with economic moats. So I figured it would be better to teach you about moats, so it'll make more sense when we're talking about the dividend aristocrats next week.
So let's get moaty.
So that was my long-winded introduction. I should have just said, hey, moat.
Moat.
Okay. In my opinion, one of the most important aspects of a business is their ability to fend off competition. Whether that be they make stellar products, like NVIDIA, for example. They make like stellar products that nobody wants to live without. Or whether they have embedded advantage, like utilities, for example. They all have competitive advantage over their competitors because the government basically says, you are going to be the utility for this state. You're going to do the electric, you're going to do the gas.
Is that how that works?
Yeah.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
And then you have companies like Apple that come along and they make something.
I was going to say, that's the one I always think of.
That
Apple.
People just can't live without. And then we're going to get to all of it. But like I'm just saying, the competitive advantage is sometimes internally produced, sometimes it's geographically produced, and sometimes it's like regulation produced. But if you have a competitive advantage, that's a huge benefit for dividend paying stocks, because that means you can basically charge what you want, increase your dividends every year because you have no competition. So you don't have to worry about like spending money on advertising and crap like that. Mm-hmm. Okay, that was another long-winded introduction. Okay, what is an economic moat? Warren Buffett talks about these all the time. So if you are a Warren Buffett fan or someone from his school of thought, he always brings up moats. Basically, an economic moat is a distinct advantage a business has over competitors, which allows it to protect its market share and long-term profitability from competitors. I can't say that word.
Competitors.
Now, when they're talking about moats, they will talk about 2 different kinds. They'll talk about a wide moat, which is kind of self-explanatory, and they'll talk about a narrow moat, which is kind of against self-explanatory. But a wide moat is one that's very difficult to mimic or duplicate. So it creates a wide barrier against competition. Whereas a narrow economic moat is when it's a slight competitive advantage, but it doesn't overly deter competitors from trying to duplicate things.
And that's the thing with most companies that have an advantage. Anybody who's a competitor in the field will see, hey, they're doing something, it's working. You see it all the time, even in social media, that people copy people. And then as soon as somebody copies you, then you kind of lose your advantage. So then you have to actually trailblaze again. And then you're actually doing something right if people keep copying you. But the nice thing is when you have a moat, it's harder and harder and harder for them to actually copy you, follow suit. And that's where we're going to get over the different kinds of moats.
Well, established companies with economic moats have away from competitors from eating away at stuff. Because let's face it, if I sold something like a pair of shoes for $10 and my neighbors saw that I was making $10 for a pair of shoes, they would probably find similar shoes and sell them for $5 or $6 or $8.
And that's exactly what China does with a lot of stuff. They go in, they find products, they make the same products, and then they make it cheaper.
So I would have to create a moat. I don't know how to do that. With shoes reference, I guess I would have to make my shoes myself, so I'm not actually paying for someone to build the shoes. Or I would have to create contracts with people that make shoes for $1, like Walmart does. Walmart's notorious for that. They can actually underbid everybody else because they buy so much.
En masse, so that they can actually do the whole price advantage thing. And Amazon does that a lot now too, don't they?
And one of the things you have to think about when it comes to Amazon, yeah, they're another one.
Amazon.
Whenever you think about moats, is it has to actually be lengthy. It can't be like for example, a moat that people thought, this just popped in my head because we lost money in it, was GoPro cameras, action cameras. They said, oh, they have a moat because no one else is making the action cameras. And sure, like within like a year or two, Apple had stuff coming out, and then Google had stuff coming out, and then like after like another year or two, like your freaking cell phones just had action cameras on them. So GoPro got
duty-whopped.
They didn't have a lengthy duration, so it actually wasn't a moat. It was just an innovative idea. That makes sense?
Yeah. Then the competition caught up to it, and then they actually figured out the technology, and then it surged the market with competitors, and GoPro went bloop, bloop, bloop.
Yeah. I still think GoPro is a good company, but they're
their stuff is very expensive. I'm not saying it's not good quality, high quality, but
they're kind of like dinosaurs at this aspect in the game.
But I think they pulled back a little bit because they partner with like police forces or something.
I forget.
Something happened where they got in with the cameras that I think that's what saved their butts.
Yeah, there's a lot of different moats. We're going to go over a few, like the ones I think are the most important. The first one's switching costs. Think Apple.
Apple's huge. Apple's absolutely huge.
Think
for this.
Microsoft. Basically what it is when it's so difficult for customers to switch from, say, Apple to Samsung, or switch from Microsoft to, what the hell is Microsoft's competitor?
I don't even know.
Vista or something? No, that's Microsoft.
Linux and what is the other one? Oh my gosh, I'm having a brain fart. I'm sure you can fill in the gap there.
Because it'll actually cost more from, like, if you think about, like, say, like, you run a business, to switch from Microsoft to Microsoft's competitor, you have to buy the new software, and then you have to pay for the training. Everyone, their whole life is trained on Microsoft stuff. So, like, for them to actually operate on something else, you literally would have to retrain everybody, which is going to cost you more than just paying Microsoft to keep giving you.
And that type of technology with bigger businesses and like government type stuff, like once they buy into a specific kind of program, they stick with it because yes, the cost of change, the cost of retraining, the cost of the licenses, the whole package deal.
And the reason I bring Apple into this systems is not because Apple's technology is so much superior to other ones, but because most people have an iPhone and they have the AirPods and they'll have the iPad, so they'll have like all the accessories that go with their Apple subscription. Mm-hmm. And so to actually rebuy all those like say they can find a cell phone for cheaper, to rebuy all those is
where the technology actually integrates with the thing. And that's one of my biggest bitches with Apple. Personally, like, I hate them because they have, like, that proprietary thing, which is great from a business standpoint. But from a user individual, it's like, it's a monopoly, monetized, whatever the heck you want to call it. Because, like, I prefer MP3. I like it completely open source. I'm a full open source type person because I want to be able to move it between whichever devices I so choose. And Apple does this whole thing where you just can't.
So you can see how, like, a lot of the companies will purposely make things like square pegs and round hole type of like switching, because they know that like people generally are lazy, so they're not going to actually.
Well, and that was another thing. I was actually going to bring this up because like right now we're looking to switch over from Verizon, and it is like a lot of people don't switch and they'll keep paying those higher costs because it is such a pain in the butt to then port your number and wait for stuff to transfer and be down and out for a couple of days. And then that's if there's no technological glitches and blah, 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 blah. I'm still going to do it. It's just a matter of like sitting down.
So if you can find companies that have that, you want to, like, especially dividend companies that pay like a healthy return, you actually obviously like this is probably the number one. Yeah.
That's why Apple and Microsoft are definitely in a good place with that.
It's hard to, I should preface all of this. I forgot to do it. Like, it's very difficult to find the moats doing research. So you actually have to have some imagination, some creativity. And if you don't have that, like I don't really, they actually have ETFs that are literally like moat ETFs. And you just go in there and you look at their holdings.
Oh, so that's like a sneaky backdoor.
Yeah.
Nice. Piggybacking off somebody else's research.
Yeah, they'll like
that's classy.
They'll have like the Vanguard Moat one is like a really good one, and like if you go into its holdings, it'll tell you like the top 10 holdings, so you can be like, oh, that's kick ass. Okay, the second moat is cost advantage. This moat is when a company can produce and deliver products or services at a lower cost than its competitors. You want Geico, Amazon, Walmart, Costco. All those are like examples of this particular type of moat.
Yeah, they got so much freaking
They have
power
a
and bulk.
more efficient manufacturing process. They have a better procurement process. And like they're just Geico is like the cheapest insurance because they just have better rate. Like I don't even know how to break that down. Insurance.
I honestly don't know that much about the insurance one, but Walmart's a really good example where they just go in and they buy a whole bunch of stuff. They private label a whole bunch of stuff.
Amazon, like they get kind of dirty. Like they'll actually they'll see that people have a moat through their ABA and then they'll just make the product.
FBA. Yeah, that's what they do. Oh my gosh, Amazon is so sketchy. Like when we did FBA, that fulfillment by Amazon thing where you'd send in products and then if you found a really good product and they saw that it was selling, Amazon would actually come in as a competitor. And then because Amazon runs the FBA platform, they'd actually kind of like shimmy you out and then lower the price and they'd do like the race to the bottom, but then they'd have the full capitalization. So they keep charging you for having your things stored with them, even though they're undercutting. It's like, oh my God. So that's what they do. They like are sending out the leaders with the third-party sellers, and then Amazon is like, well, I'm just going to private label this at a way cheaper price than anybody else can get.
And Walmart
totally
does the
sneaky.
same thing. Walmart like the difference between Walmart and Costco, actually, Walmart like buy individual things, but they'll buy them in like just ridiculous bulk, and they'll just ship it to all their different 100 and 200,000 different stores around the world. Whereas Costco, people that manufacture them don't have to break it down into individual things. They'll just take a crate. Like they'll take a skid full of
A skid full of product.
But Costco's a really good one. Like of the ones we've named so far, Apple, Microsoft, Geico, Amazon, Walmart, and Costco. Costco is actually like my favorite dividend stock. But that's that one so far. The third moat is network effects. This moat exists when people use a certain product or service. What happens is the more valuable the network becomes. Like, so if you have more subscribers, think Facebook, think eBay, Netflix, the more subscribers that actually subscribe to what they have going on, the more valuable the network becomes. And then you can't crack that. Like it took a good, I want to say 10 to 12 years, maybe 15 years for other people to start making streaming things that could actually compete with Netflix.
Netflix, yeah. Because Netflix was so far ahead of the game, and then they had that brand following because they loved the service so much, so it kind of like became its own. And
I haven't seen anything that competes with Facebook yet. I mean, they have different there's different social media platforms, yes, but I haven't seen anything that competes with Facebook yet.
Well, there are other ones out there. It's just the fact that if you get on them because you don't like the censorship that Facebook has, the problem is there's so few users that they kind of don't make sense, so people kind of stay with Facebook. That's what
I'm saying. Like I haven't seen anyone that can compete with Facebook.
Exactly. It is very interesting.
Facebook, and they just started paying the dividend this quarter. It's only 50 cents a share, but like
I think Etsy would actually be on this list too, to be honest.
It probably was,
because it's very similar to eBay, even though it's a different thing. But like they kind of have created their own vicious thing by the users.
So that's the network effect. That's when the more people that use their stuff, the harder it is for the competition to actually break into their thing.
Yeah.
Google, like I don't even know who's the other.
Does Google even have
internet competitors? Firefox, is that one? I
don't. No, actually. But Bing was the one. But oh my gosh, Bing is trash. Like, if you even just try to go in there and search anything, it's like, what the hell kind of algorithm do they have? It's terrible.
So what you see from these, though, is people actually probably all try the competitors, like Facebook's competition, Netflix's competition, Google's competition, and they determine, well, their shit sucks. There's not enough people, and it's not as easy to navigate as what I'm used to, so they just stay. And so like this category is pretty easy to find actually if you have like a fourth dimensional thinking. The next one I'm going to cover is brand. Basically that's literally like what it sounds like. Customers become attached to their favorite brands, and it's once people find something they like or something that's simple for them or something that they can eat without like having an outbreak. Like I'm guilty of this, like with certain chips, certain drinks and other things. Like I don't have a reaction from like. Well,
so brand loyalty, a couple of the things on this list are Nike. Nike's obvious. Like everybody has their shoe preference. Like I personally love New Balance because they fit my foot really well.
Brooks.
Tim likes
Brooks.
Because
I got gnarly feet.
Because he's got fascial plantitis or whatever the heck it's called.
But actually, a sidebar is I found really kick shoes on Temu for like less than $10.
Which is very interesting considering nothing else has been accommodating for his like gnarly freaking. His feet are shaped like a woman is stuck in high heels. Like they are the gnarliest feet I think I've ever seen in my life. The other one that it comes up in the brand thing is the Coke versus Pepsi thing.
Coke and Pepsi,
like that's
Apple, Disney.
To me, it'd be like a Ford versus Chevy type
Ford
situation
versus Chevy,
too.
but like, Ford versus GM, Altria versus British Tobacco and Philip Morris. Like, people have their specific brand of cigarettes they like. They have their specific brand of soda they drink. Actually, it depends where people are located.
I was going to say, I think most people
understand what pop is. I have got for 20 years because I grew up in Colorado. I came out here and I call pop. It's pop. And for 20 years, people are like, it's soda. It's not pop. What are you talking about?
It's a Northeast thing.
I'm like, you losers. It is totally pop. So I'd be interested to actually.
What's Disney's competitor? Out of curiosity. Like brand loyalty for Disney?
Yeah, like cartoon. Like their cartoon thing.
Oh, like Cartoon Network?
Yeah, it would be like cartoon. It would be like Nickelodeon.
Oh, okay. Okay. That would make sense.
So that's brand. Brand is a huge, burritos. Like, you got Chipotle versus Moe's. People prefer Chipotle.
I think there's like kitchen gadgets like Cuisinart and...
So this is basically when customers have their preferred
brand for the brand's sake.
For whatever they have going on, and because humans are loyal, they said loyalty. I think it is creatures of habit ease of procurement. So
ease of procurement. It could also be a status thing in some components, I think.
Oh, like people, how they will they'll only drive Mercedes as opposed to
that's what I'm saying. Like that lady that came from Europe, she's like, I will not drive a Ford. She's like, screw that. She's like, only Mercedes and Aston Martin.
But this one's another one. It's another easy one to identify once you actually put your fourth dimensional thinking cap on, because you like look around and be like, okay, all you really have to do is just drive around and be like, okay, go through a neighborhood, you'd be like, look at that car, look at that car, look at that car, look at that lawnmower, look at that, and then you go to the grocery store and be like, oh, look at that, look at that.
I mean, sometimes the brands completely justify. Like, my dad's in the whole landscaping business, and like the, what is it, the Eco?
He has...
What the hell is that brand? Is it Echo? Yeah, I guess it is the Echo brand.
His Echo.
They are hands down the better types of equipment than like the other types of mowers and stuff. I think X marks the other one, and then it's like if you're looking at the chainsaw type stuff, it's the Steel brand. They're like hands down better than everything else. 3M's another one that's like, to me, that's justified for the type of stuff that 3M does.
3M, we'll get to 3M.
Just like higher quality.
We'll get to 3M in a hot minute.
Like, we're definitely more thrifty, but when it comes to quality, sometimes you just can't beat. It's like buying store-brand cream cheese. Like, store-brand cream cheese just cannot match up to Philadelphia.
But you can buy store-brand, like, butter, and it's just as good as the expensive butter.
If the taste isn't any different, like, to me,
and I buy store-brand cereal because it's literally the exact same ingredients that are in, like,
well, and you know what? When you start understanding how private labeling works, a lot of times it's the exact same cereal or whatever.
It is literally like, we just got
the shippers just changed.
We got a huge bag of, quote,
Dino Bites.
Dino Bites. For like it was $3 for like 3 pounds of cereal, but like
Fruity Pebble.
If you went to the store and you actually had to buy the Kellogg's version, which is Fruity Pebbles, it was like $3 for like 20% of
and it's exactly the same.
It's literally the exact same ingredients and everything.
And again, once you understand how private labeling works, they literally just proposition the same place that makes the stuff, and they just ask to do it bulk cheaper. It's just literally private labeling.
The fifth one is capital intensive. And this one is very narrow, but you'll see why. Capital intensive is basically where it would cost so much to build something that competitors are just naturally discouraged from competing. Airbus and Boeing, for example, with airplanes, because it costs like millions of dollars in research and development, and then millions of dollars to actually build one plane.
Yeah, crazy.
That's why Boeing has just had a year, and they're still like, their stock is still pretty high because they're literally one of two. I would think another one would be like tanks.
I was going to say, what else is there?
EV there for a while, but EV, like they worked around it.
Well, that's the thing. Sometimes in the beginning, stuff is higher cost intensive until they come up with better processes. Like, I think, yeah, you're right. The solar stuff was kind of in that category. The EV was in that category. I assume the whole space stuff is in that category, but I assume at some point that's going to be dime a dozen type deal, and maybe even planes. Maybe we'll have individual floating hovercrafts at some point.
Defense contractors like what the hell, General Dynamics would be like a capital intensive one because it costs so much in research and development.
Yeah, they're the ones that do like the tankers and the
production of like, and then I would think ships. Ones that build like submarines. The huge ships would be another one. I
actually worked with them a lot at work.
I don't know who builds the actual ships. So that's that one. That one's pretty easy to identify as well once you think. The sixth one is regulatory. That was the one I brought up before.
For utilities.
Utilities were laws and regulations make it very difficult for anyone to enter the industry. The utilities and railroads are just like the two biggest ones. And utilities, you can actually have multiple utilities because they service different sections of America, but the rules are still the same. Like in Florida, it's NE for electric. No one can come in there to compete. So it's literally NE. That's where everyone gets their electric in Florida.
That's why we always talk about UGI here, because UGI is like the only gas provider
company,
in
and
the
PP&L
area.
is the only one that has like
the electric.
There's other ones trying to get in, but they can't, like because there's so many regulations in place. It would cost them so much to compete with PP&L that it's just like,
Well, and if somebody big does come in, like I think this just kind of happened with us. Like Suez used to be our water provider, and they got bought out by Veolia or something, but they got bought out. It's not like a new company came in and competed. They like literally just bought them out and said, we're just taking over, whatever.
And then railroads, like you notice there's only like 4 railroad companies in America because it's like all the laws and regulations go into that. And then also I would think capital intensive too. Like it has to cost a ton to build a train.
I would think planes would be something similar to all that too.
So like that's regulatory. Like those ones are again super easy to identify. Like once I go through the list and like you think about it, like oh okay, I see all this now because you don't really think of it. And the last one we're going to discuss, this one is very it's huge. It's intangible assets. We're talking patents, trademarks. Basically because they have the patent to like the certain pharmaceutical drug, they can charge whatever the hell they want for as long, like I guess it's like 10 years because there's laws and regulations in place. And then after 10 years or 15 years.
This happens a lot where the patent will expire.
And then they'll actually get, then the generic ones can come in and like make the exact same medication. So that's why you'll have like certain drugs out there, like you'll be like, I don't know, asthma drugs where it's like $2 generic and it's like 15 or 20 with your prescription. Well, their patent ran out. So then the generic company was actually able to create the exact same thing for cheaper. But for that 10 or 15 years, they have a kick-ass moat in place. And trademarks, the same thing. 3M.
That's definitely something to be aware of if something does have that, and knowing there's a 10-year window.
There is a timetable.
Because I assume that would tank the stock price if competitors like jump in.
What they'll do is they know if they have a drug that's really good, they have a patent for 12 years or whatever remaining, then they'll just put their research and development in another problem like cancer or diabetes or I don't know, fungus or whatever.
So they'll stack them or they'll ladder them so that they constantly always have one to try to stay and keep the prices locked in.
Pfizer's
that makes sense.
Notorious for that, where they'll always have something that only they can make because they keep staggering their.
That makes a lot of sense from a business standpoint.
And 3M's another one. Like people don't actually know that 3M has a lot of patents in place for like the ear protection and like their the chemicals composition they use for cleaners and
sticking agents and adhesives, and like 3M is freaking awesome.
That's like my favorite, like of all the companies that we've listed today, that's my favorite one. Like we have stock in it. Her mom has stock in it.
Well, and a lot of the big other ones we were talking about, I think they have the YieldMax ETFs that you can get in, but a lot of them don't pay dividends. And if they don't have the ETFs, then we kind of just don't buy the overpriced giants. 3M's the exception here. We just got into Pfizer.
Pfizer's for retirement because it's undervalued. 3M's greatly undervalued because they had like a lawsuit come up with they contracted like the hearing things for the service fighters or army people, whatever you want to call them. And like there was like people are going deaf, so they're paying this is a complete contrarian value time to invest in 3M because it does yield like 7%. It's grown its dividend every year for 62 or 63 years. And it's not like some of the other ones like McDonald's, like they'll grow their dividend for 60 some years, but it's like a penny a year. Like 3M will it's like 2. Sometimes it's 2%, sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 8, but they're always continuing to grow their dividend because of.
And with that lawsuit, I mean, that's going to be in the same category as the lead in the wires for Verizon and T-Mobile, AT&T and all that. Like it's a blip on the radar for them because they go through the legal stuff. They have money set aside for all that stuff. They're still a great company. They come back with a vengeance and their stock goes back up after that bad news comes out. Those contrarian or those bad panic sells are when you get more shares of the stock and then you ride it up, make more dividends, reinvest.
So, but 3M is like, I think something people should have that in their income portfolio from the start.
Yeah, if you can get it, especially now while it's undervalued.
It's ridiculously undervalued. It should be trading like 150 to 1.
Are we able to get any of that, or are we still just only in my mom's portfolio?
It's your mom's, and we got it through that DOGG one.
Oh, that's right, the Dog of the Dow. DOGG.
Yeah, but I got her mom into 3M at like 80, 90. What the hell did I get her into? Hold on. I know this. It's on my spreadsheet. 91.50, and it's valued at like damn near $200 a share with its like
hell yeah
everything. So like that's what I'm saying. Like right now it's currently like 108. They just had management change. People are super happy about that. So like it's going to go up. So like it's still undervalued by like 30, 40, 50%, but you can still get into it, and it still has a 6% yield. So if you're hearing this, get into it. Next dip there is 3M. Like it's like for real. Like I can't think of a better income producing investment.
Yeah.
And you know how I feel about Hercules Capital and how I feel about Arbor Realty and how like dude, this is better than those because it has 67 or 63 years. I forget years of dividend growth.
And we'll go over that Aristocrat
It's
Achievers
so awesome.
and all that next week. Because that was actually pretty enlightening once Tim wrote that up and I was reading through it. I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
I personally think you should have at the very minimum 40% of your portfolio in moat stocks, moat income producing.
40.
Stocks. Yep, because that's uber.
Are we even within that threshold?
We're pretty close.
Okay. So my question now would be: do we have any stocks that are moat that aren't on this list that are moated? Moaty. I kind of think the tobacco ones.
ARLP is a moat because it's cold. Like not a lot of companies sell cold. There's only like 3 or 4.
That would fall in utilities, right? That regulation thing?
UAN's probably another one.
What do they do? I forget. Was that one?
Fertilizer.
Oh, that's right. Fertilizer.
They do nitrogen fertilizer. Not a lot of places actually create nitrogen fertilizer. Camping World would be a moat because there's not a lot of people that actually...
Yeah, they just went balls to the wall. And that might be one where maybe competition comes in later, but that might actually have that price of entry barrier because the RVs and stuff do cost a pretty penny, especially the fact they're snatching up every dealership.
Main Street Capital has a moat. I think MO, which is Alturia, has a moat. I think NEP, which is NEE's renewable energy utility, is a moat. We have a lot of them, actually, because you have to think all these YieldMaxes are moats. Yep.
That's how we get into the ones with a higher payout.
PDI is pretty much a moat because they're like the absolute best.
The bond fund.
So like we're probably
Bitcoin.
We're probably at 6,
Bitcoin would be another one, wouldn't it?
I would say
not Bitcoin. Coinbase.
Coinbase, yeah.
Would be another one.
Probably 60%, maybe more.
Dang, son.
Maybe more, but I'm saying like if you want to have the reason I say 40 to 50 is a bare minimum. I mean, I said 40 before, but I meant 40 to 50 as a bare minimum is because if you have 50% or say 60% of your portfolio locked up into moat investments, you can then kind of, I don't want to say gamble, but you can be less restrictive in what you can invest in. You can go for the higher yielding stuff.
You can balance your portfolio with the secure stuff.
We did the risk assessment. That's how I did a lot of the risk assessments. I actually got stuff that I knew the dividend would never be cut.
It gives you a little bit of like free.
And the price appreciation is never going to be too dramatic. So then I had freedom to be like, okay, well, I can take a flyer on this one or I can take a flyer on that one because if it goes to zero, it doesn't really matter because we have this going on.
For sure.
And the reason it's just because like I said before, they can use whatever their moat is to their advantage where they can charge what they want, which is in ridiculous levels of high revenue. And once they have high revenue, they have more profit margin and then they can grow the dividend and the dividend's safe. And then their PE doesn't really matter in these as much as it does in other stocks because if it's overvalued, who's the competitor? It doesn't.
Well, and when somebody has a moat, they're typically like an industry leader, right? Yeah. Or whatever leader, which means they're going to be the higher price point, which means people are going to push them up faster than the competitors.
So what I do is I look for ones that are moats, and then I look for ones that are actually undervalued in their PE versus their peers. If they're like an industry leader and their PE is vastly less than their peers, then I know they're vastly undervalued, and that
usually is coupled with a news thing, right, or something.
Well, that's how we got 3M at dirt cheap.
I know
3M's like the bomb, and that's how we got Verizon at dirt cheap, and that's how we got Black Hills, and that's how we got
we waited for the panic news, and then we were like, nom nom as a contrarian investor, that's what you do. I know. You like when everyone's like, oh my god, run for the hills because this and this. The lead, they'll never fix the lead in the freaking wires.
Just when you just pick it up because it's like,
yeah, that doesn't even make sense.
Like right now, I would literally wait on everything we've named except for Pfizer, 3M, Verizon, and Altair, MO, PM, and BTI because tobacco got kicked the last couple of years.
And I think that's going to turn around soon.
But
we have a couple sneaky suspicions on that, which we're not going to say anything about right now. But I definitely think they're going to go somewhere.
I love Altair. Like, my num-nums are made from Altair.
Yeah. I mean, and that's beyond personal things. I think there's actually going to be a health component popping out here in the next one of those health trend things that pops up, like bone broth and certain things. Like, you just mark my wordsies. That's another one of my sideline hobbies.
So now that you understand what moats are, next week when I go into the dividend aristocrats and I've started naming off like these companies have had X amount of years in dividend growth, you can see why. Like, because they actually are the only ones selling this, or people are so loyal to their brand, or it costs so much. So it'll make it easier to digest the next podcast. But that is Moats in a nutshell, and I love them.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. Now I always get confused with moats and margin of safety, but moats make a lot of sense. And it was funny because like Tim pulled a quote. Can you go up to the quote, the one with the sharks? Because I think this is so freaking funny. I've been playing around with that AI thing.
It says, good business is like a strong castle with a deep moat around it. I want sharks in the moat to keep away those who would encroach on the castle. Warren Buffett said that.
And I threw in like moat with sharks. The picture the AI shot out had like flying sharks in the air. And I was like, that is amazing.
That's perfect.
That was perfect if you got on the email. Oh my gosh.
But so like another example that, so you, like I said, to find them, you can go into the ETFs that are moat specific ETFs, look at their holdings, or you literally can just go into Warren Buffett's portfolio and look at what.
Do you have any examples of the moat ETFs?
It's Vanguard Moat.
Oh, okay.
Moat is the actual ETF thing.
It's actually MOAT.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
MOAT, MOTI, MOTG. Like if you just type in Moat ETFs, it'll bring up a list of them, and you can literally just go into their holdings. If you go into the holdings, like it'll just.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what we got here.
Like this one has Wells Fargo, Masco Corporation, the Walt Disney Company, Equifax, and you think about all those, they all make
Wells
sense.
Fargo has to be the big company with like the money aspect.
Masco, I'm not sure what they are.
I don't even know what that is. Disney's another one that's like brand loyalty, wide berth,
ETF,
proprietary stuff,
Equifax,
trademark.
Makes sense. Okay, and then you look at Moats Holdings. They have Allegion
Air, that's a big one.
ALLE.
Google.
Got TransUnion, which is the other one of like Equifax. They got Google. They got Charles Schwab, which is like the best ever. Got Bancorp. That's all you have, literally. To find companies with moats, just click in Moat ETFs and then look at their whole holdings, and it'll give you like, you can get their top 10 and you can go, oh, okay, that makes sense. Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. And then finding ones that pay dividends now, that's where.
Yeah, that's the harder
where the tricky part comes in. That's
because a lot of the big ones don't, or they pay like
they don't have to appeal like to their shareholders on that front because they're having such high price appreciation. They have high returns.
So they go in growth mode. But the nice thing about some of those is, again, those YieldMax ETFs with like Google, with Facebook, with
Apple,
Microsoft.
Actually, in the last email I typed
Coinbase.
up that we haven't actually, she hasn't edited it yet, but like the actual number 8 best buy for the upcoming week was the YieldMaxes, because if you do it right, they're awesome. Like Microsoft, Coinbase, NVIDIA, Amazon, Apple, they're all like trading well above where they were when I got into them, and they're paying pretty good dividends. So like,
yeah, and that's the thing. Like, even though we're not huge fans of Apple, which probably is going to trigger a lot of people because most people have Apple products, but we totally invest in the freaking YieldMax because we like money. We don't really care.
And YieldMax,
they got a great business plan.
YieldMax has Tesla, Apple, Amazon, Google, Netflix, Microsoft, JP Morgan, PayPal, Monero. I have no idea what MSTR is. OARC, NVIDIA, Facebook, Coinbase, Disney.
Are those all moats?
Pretty much.
A lot of them are, yeah. ExxonMobil,
American AMD, the chip maker, Square, what is it? 3AI or whatever it's called, the AI one.
Yeah.
Like pretty much 90% of their YieldMaxes are moats.
So that must be actually their criteria for going after these guys for their.
What their criteria is, like why they're beautiful, is because they noticed that the ones with the high growth don't have dividends. The high options potential are ones that don't have dividends, so they can actually go into all these that don't really pay dividend.
Which is a great opportunity for us, guys.
And do options and then make money. So like that's why I like YieldMax. But if you do it right, it's good. Like Tesla's one. The rest of them are pretty good. ExxonMobil's and the AI one's kind of right now.
Well, and when we say that with the Tesla one, I think they're trying to get their stuff reeled in, so they're doing a stock.
It was a reverse stock split.
Reverse stock split. That's what it is.
So for every
we'll have to see what's going on with that.
10 stocks you had, you got 5 or
something.
Did
you want to tell them about that one that's doing a 50-1? 50 what was that? Walmart?
It's Chipotle. I'm sure they've read about it, but like Chipotle's doing 50-1. It's worth if it has a huge dip between now and when that happens in April, it's worth picking up. If it doesn't have a huge dip, then wait till after it does a revert or does its stock split where it's like $60 and then pick Chipotle up. That's going to shoot right back up. If you ever see a stock split, research stock splits. Anytime they actually do the stock split, it generally doubles within like a year or two.
I feel like we should do an episode on this.
Oh, we can. Like the last one that I remember. Well, the Walmart just had one, but I guarantee you
I think we should do an episode on this.
But the last one that I got into was Apple. I got into it for a mom because Apple did the, I think it was the 2-for-1 or 5-for-1 or whatever it was. And like, sure enough, within like 3 to 4 months, she was up like 40-some%. And I was like, I'm good. I'll tap out. I don't like Apple stocks. You don't make money on it other than price appreciation.
Was that just one of those experiments you ran? Probably.
No, because I knew exactly what would happen with Apple stock. Okay. If I had money, if I had like capital, I would have done the exact same thing for Walmart. And if I had money, I would do the same exact thing for Chipotle. Like there's certain companies, when they do a stock split, that all you have to do is hold it for like up to 12 months and you're going to make a ton of money off it.
All right. So is that everything for the moats?
That's everything for the moats.
Sharks in the water.
Next week.
I just keep flashing with the flying sharks over the castle.
Next week will be the Dividend Aristocrat one. There's like 7 different categories things there, and I
think that one's pretty informative because you get the year spans and then it'll make more sense.
And I have I did like the valuation research for it, so I know precisely what they should be worth. I mean, obviously the totals are going to be off a little bit because it's like a couple weeks behind the podcast thing, but you'll see almost up to date like good companies that are undervalued that pay dividends year after year after year and increase their dividend year after year after year.
Heck yeah. All right, guys, so the takeaway for this episode is to go look up one of those moat ETFs and then start just brainstorming and matching up the different kind of moats we talked about in this episode to get yourself familiar, because that'll start getting you into the mindset of like what to look for when you're looking for dividend pairs. So, all right, guys, thanks for tuning in. We will see you in the next episode.
Peace.